What is better, buying a development site with building plans and permits or starting from scratch? If this is something that you'd like to know, then stick around because in this video, that's exactly what I'm going to unpack. Let's get into it. Hey guys, Peter Kelly here from Little Fish Property Developments. We help everyday landowners just like you maximize the value of their land through low-risk development projects. On this channel, we share everything you need to deliver successful projects time and time again. So if you aren't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. Purchasing a development site that comes with pre-approved building plans and permits, I believe can be extremely risky unless you are a super experienced developer. There are positives for sure, but ultimately it's risky if you aren't experienced. This isn't the case for everyone and under all circumstances, but generally speaking, it's very risky for the reasons I'm about to share. Later in the video, I'll share the benefits and also some tips on how to minimize the risk if you decide to go down the plans and permits road. First up, let's look at the risks. One of the biggest risks, in my opinion, is that you have no way to find out the reasons why the site is being sold with plans and permits in the first place. Something that it is very important to know. It's not uncommon for the sales agents to sell you a story either, but the stakes are just too high to trust someone that has a vested interest in you purchasing the site. The reason could be simple and above board, but ultimately you have no way of knowing for sure, which means that you're flying blind and hoping there's nothing wrong with the development site itself. Secondly, when developers sell a site with plans and permits, they almost always want to make a profit because they believe they have added value to the site and they want you to pay for it. The premium you pay for the site is the profit that you want to be making at the end. And thirdly, which is more of a reason than a risk, is the most key decisions have already been made. If they haven't been made correctly, it can cost you time and money, and you have no choice. You are bound to follow them because the permit has already been issued. Now, there are other risks, but for me, those are the big ones. These are the risks or reasons why I don't pursue sites with approved plans and permits. Now, let's talk about the positives, or should I say positive, because in my opinion, there's really only one positive, and that's time. By securing a site with plans and permits, you can cut a significant amount of time off the total length of your project, essentially meaning that you will see your profit sooner, albeit potentially less profit. Who this does and doesn't make sense for is going to come down to the individual's motivations. I guess you could also make the argument knowing exactly what you can build is a positive, but you won't be able to know what you could have achieved on the site as that course has already been run. But for the reasons stated earlier, I think this can also be a negative because there is a high risk of poor decision making. Now, I want to share some tips with you to minimize the risk if you do decide to go down the plans and permit path. Tip 1, you need to check if the plans are endorsed by council. If they haven't, then you need to firstly make sure you are looking at the plans that council has made its decision on. You then need to request a copy of the planning permit conditions so you can review them. This step alone will help you avoid any costly surprises because these conditions will need to be met for you to receive your endorsed plans from council. Tip 2, you'll need to make sure you get the original architect's contact details. Whatever changes or updates that need to be made to the plans as part of the planning permit conditions will need to be completed by the same architect. At least that's the path of least resistance. The alternative will cost you time and money as you'll need to engage someone to replicate the approved plans so they can then make the required changes and updates. Tip number 3, you'll need to check when the permit expires. Although it is possible to extend a permit, it gets tricky or near on impossible to extend it once it expires. If the permit lapses, you'll be required to start the entire planning application again, so it is critical you don't assume that there's plenty of time left. It is important to note that the expiry date is taken from the original date that the permit was issued and not from when any amendments were made to the permit. Tip 4, look at the buildability and design of the project. Amendments cost time and money. The last thing you want to be doing is to be going back into council if you can help it. So look at the design and make sure you are happy. Then finally, look at the buildability or constructability of the project. Don't assume you can make changes to reduce the construction cost because you can't, unless you are prepared to hold the project up to get the required amendment approvals from council. And the last tip, crunch your numbers to make sure they stack up. You don't want to be operating too close to the line. So if you find yourself massaging the numbers, then the one you're looking at may not be the one. Remember, the name of the game is patience and discipline. There will always be another site with approved plans. That's a wrap, guys. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'm Peter Kelly. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy developing.